Beginning transmission. This is the audio log of Dr. Cool, O5 Council member, as well as the Supreme Commander of Mobile Task Force Alpha 1, also known as the Red Right Hand. Hello everyone. Today's article file reading is an interesting one. I understand that visual learning methods are sometimes the best way to get the points across, especially to some of our interns here in the Foundation. However, this SCP object, while it is a Keter class, you can even create your own theories about it, which many of us have done. Let us jump into this article file for today, shall we? And you shall see what I mean. SCP Foundation symbol number 2521. Object class, Keter. Special containment procedures are none. There are no special containment procedures at this point in time for this object, since it seems to not wish to be contained as easily as many of us would like. However, description: SCP-2521 appears to be a large humanoid-shaped figure that seems to be completely covered in black, tentacle-like protrusions all around its body. This is also evident from the fact that its fingers are very much like these same tentacle protrusions, and are used in the similar case of arms from octopi. It is also unknown if, just like octopi, these arms can control themselves through neurological methods while severed from the body. I would advise that more experimentation on this supposed theory be implemented in the safest possible manner. However, whatever the case may be, SCP-2521 appears to have an interesting case with it. The SCP can only be described in symbols. Descriptions can be allowed, but they must also coincide with symbolic usage, just like this video file is providing. Anything that is written, documented on computer technology without the use of symbolic symbols, or even spoken without the use of symbolic symbols, are not authorized. Also, this SCP is officially closed off to SCP classes ranging from classes 1 to 3. Only level 4s and O5 Council members, such as myself, can authorize these files. SCP-2521's height appears to be on records indicated to be 9 feet tall, much taller than the average human male, who roughly ranges from around 5 to 6 feet. The protrusion-like tentacles on the arms of SCP-2521 appear to be also covered in some glue-like substance. Residue analysis indicates that there are no formal chemicals on this planet or anywhere in this universe that can coincide with the substance that is located on these tentacles. It is also speculated that the protrusions on the hand are allowed to be used by the SCP as its fingers. The problem with this SCP, however, is its ability to not want to be contained. Whenever the object was first captured by the Foundation, we tried multiple methods in order to contain this object. However, it seemed that our attempts proved well fruitless in the end, as it was able to phase through any material that we could provide in trying to contain it. It is very similar to SCP-106 or SCP-343 in the fact that it can materialize through any type of matter. The sentience of this object is left to debate amongst fellow researchers. While it does have a basic understanding of human speech, as well as it being talked about on paper or through verbal communication with another human being, it seems to not, however, understand symbols. These include pictures, signs, or any other kind of visual interpretation. This, of course, has left it very debatable on how exactly intelligent SCP-2521 is. It can be intelligent in one field, however could be lacking in another, or it could just be fooling us entirely, which is why it is classified as a Keter, and why we must take precautions in that. So let's try to remember that, shall we? Now, there were 2 experiments that we commenced, using D-Class personnel as the test subjects. in order to test out this theory of symbolism with this SCP. As you can see through this series of interpretive pictures, the D-Class was instructed to look at a sign beside him, which gave certain interpretations and symbols to the SCP object in question. He was told to draw the symbols onto the paper and describe the SCP in an earlier debriefing of it, using the same imagery. As the D-Class did what he was instructed to do through the intercom system, motion sensor cameras within the room began capturing the appearance of SCP-2521 directly behind the D-Class personnel. Lights were off at this time to ensure that the appearance of SCP-2521 was assured in this test. The D-Class was of course surprised by the sudden appearance of SCP-2521, since he was as well being the only person in the room at the time of the test. It seemed that the SCP was confused and would not accept taking the paper. It shortly vanished later on after our initial test. We retried the test again, this time instructing this different D-Class personnel to instead use words on the paper instead of symbolic pictures. As the D-Class once again continued to draw, SCP-2521 once again appeared behind this D-Class, just as what had previously happened in the first test. This time, however, SCP-2521 appeared to be reading the paper that the D-Class was instructed to write down. A basic description of SCP-2521 using words rather than imagery. SCP-2521 tightly held the paper against its chest and slowly backed into the shadows, as the D-Class personnel also cowered in the corner of the room. After SCP-2521 was fully silhouetted in the total darkness, the lights of the room were flicked on to find that SCP-2521 had fully disappeared. However, the D-Class personnel in the room and in both tests were, well, psychologically disturbed for the next few weeks. I therefore instructed that more psychological evaluations would be conducted on these D-Class personnel after these tests to see if we can get any additional information from the points of view of them. One of my colleagues, Dr. Barker, was still unconvinced and wanted to see what would happen if SCP-2521 was verbally described by the mouth of a D-Class personnel member. Intrigued by this, I allowed the test to go through, under Dr. Barker's supervision. The parameters for the first few tests were, of course, the same. One D-Class member in a darkened room with a symbolic sign to his right, as well as a motion detection camera, an intercom system to the left where Dr. Barker could inform the D-Class member on what to do, and one table lamp. Dr. Barker instructed the D-Class member to look at the sign of symbols, and then recite during an earlier debriefing of SCP-2521 what he had exactly remembered, only this time instead of describing it through symbols, he would rather describe it through words of mouth. The D-Class member did what he was instructed to do, and began describing SCP-2521 verbally. At around the same time as the first initial test, the motion tracking sensor of the camera picked up SCP-2521 appearing behind the D-Class personnel in the darkened room. This time, however, just as what had happened to the paper, 2521 managed to grab the D-Class from behind, ensnaring the D-Class member with its tentacled protrusions on its hands. It seemed to be cuddling the D-Class and snuggling it as it drifted back with it into the shadows. After approximately 5 seconds of silence, Dr. Barker immediately ordered that the lights be flicked on. When the lights were flicked on, there was nothing there. SCP-2521 had disappeared, as well as the D-Class member. The test was immediately shut down by my orders, and I allowed the mobile task force units to go throughout the site to find and see if this D-Class member could be discovered. Unfortunately, we could not find any remains whatsoever of the D-Class member, nor could we find SCP-2521, in which a initiated containment breach lockdown was initiated for the following 72 hours. Dr. Barker said that the results were quite intriguing. He now wishes to conduct the same experiment, only this time using tracking devices implanted in the D-Class personnel to see exactly where they go. While this is an intriguing idea, I would have to receive more support from my fellow colleagues of the O5 Council and have a unanimous vote in order for this to occur. For the time now, it's pending approval. However, the test did show very interesting characteristics of 2521 that me and Dr. Barker seemed to have witnessed. It seemed that SCP-2521 was actually showing emotion over what it read and what it heard from D-Class members. This included snuggling the paper close to his chest, as well as snuggling the D-Class member. If this is true, then this means that the SCP object actually has emotions, or can at least show emotions, and understand what it is being described as. If this is even the case, then that means that it knows what its appearance is, which means that it has a much more higher sensed intelligence than we originally thought. Some researchers have conducted in saying that if that is the case, then it should be lessened to a Euclid status. However, I must remind them that this is not possible. While the SCP object does seem to show affection to whoever is describing it, because of its unknown characteristics, its ability to not be contained by any sight, and its ability to cause harm to others that merely describe it by causing them to vanish out of thin air to God knows where, it still must be classified as a Keter, for the time being at least. Alright, well, that is the article file in question. It is a very interesting file. Remember, not all of our SCPs can be easily described by words. You must also look visually into the objects you study. Get into their heads, see exactly what makes them tick, and see how you can contain them with that knowledge. I hope that this file helps you, and even has entertained you, cause it certainly has for me. But anyway, this is Dr. Cool, O5 Council member, signing out.